Come spend a moment in the mind of a G. This crazy world where nothing's ever what it seems. You never known another nigga like me. You never know another nigga like me. What's up? Come spend a moment in the mind of a G. This crazy world where nothing's ever what it seems. You never known another nigga like me. You never know another nigga like me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lightning in a Bottle. I am your host, and today I want to talk about Kanye West and Candace Owens, who seemingly have broken the internet for wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt at a fashion show in Paris. Paris.
Bruh.
Yeah, the unmitigated audacity of these two niggas to say something nice about white people has got the world absolutely losing control of their bowel functions. I want to let you hear the response from Kanye and Candace and a co-founder of Black Lives Matter LA, and come back and give you my thoughts afterwards.
There is a deep irony and a sad irony when you consider that wearing a t-shirt has led such a tremor throughout the world, right? A t-shirt that says White Lives Matter, which should be implied, right? White Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter. It should be implied. Yet people are angry and they are being vicious online because they can't believe that we have the audacity to detract from the movement, which is a lie, right? Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter, then some of these things that we have been talking about on this show, things I've been talking about throughout my entire political career, would be getting attention, not the t-shirt. Right? Not the t-shirt, but these actual statistics that matter. And here are just a few of them. 117,626 Black children were killed by surgical abortion in the United States in 2018, right? Those are recent statistics. Just so we are clear, abortion in America has contributed to the greatest decline in Black population since the first Black slaves arrived. You will hear people often talk about lynching. This is like a new thing. They like neoliberalism. They could talk about lynching and they compare everything to lynchings. It's just like being lynched. Well, for your reference, you should know that 4,467 people in the United States were victims of lynchings from 1883 to 1941. 3,265 of those people were Black. And you keep talking about lynching as this horrific thing that's happened in the past, right? And yet when you say to people today that 20 million Black infants were aborted, they don't even blink an eye. They don't even bat an eyelash. No, less than batting an eyelash. They tell those same Black people that they need to be outraged when a Planned Parenthood clinic shuts down. 20 million. When you talk about people that are killed in the millions, when you talk about the Jewish Holocaust, when you talk about the Rwandan Holocaust, people are, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Of course, because it is horrible. But for whatever reason, since we have convinced ourselves to genocide our own offspring, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They don't bat an eyelash. In fact, they tell you that it is your right. So think about that. 20 million Black babies, and yet a t-shirt is what got attention last night. In 2012, more Black babies were killed by abortion in New York City than were born. Imagine that, your abortion rate being higher than your live birth rate in a city. And they celebrate it. Do you remember notoriously, the governor lit up the city pink when they talked about expanding abortion rights, expanding the Black genocide, light up the skyscrapers pink. It is a win A win for who, though, is the question. A win for who? 79% of Planned Parenthood abortion facilities are located within walking distance of neighborhoods that have a higher proportion of Latina and Black women. But that's not the only thing that's killing Black America, literally. We also know obesity is killing Black America. I wish, you know what we should have done? We should have put a White Lives Matter t-shirt on Lizzo. Maybe we could have gotten a lot of attention about obesity and how it's actually killing Black Americans. Obesity is the #1 killer in America, okay? I know Black Lives Matter told you it was police shootings, right? It made you think that thousands of Black men were dying at the hands of police. No, absolutely not. I think in the year 2020, was it 9 unarmed Black men were killed by police? 9 of them. But obesity is killing people at a very high rate, and Black women have the highest rates of obesity. So the #1 killer, and of course, we sit at the top of it. Black women, 56.9% of us are classified as obese. We shouldn't talk about that. You know why? Because it didn't have a t-shirt on it that said White Lives Matter. You talk about criminality. No one wants to talk about it if you're not talking about a police officer, right? People don't want to talk about the fact that Black people are slaughtering other Black people. People don't want to talk about Black on Black crime. It doesn't matter because we're doing it to ourselves, right? Just like we're aborting our own babies. Applaud it. Applaud it. And
what have they?
So,
what have?
I want to answer the white.
Yeah.
I feel like someone caught what I was saying, the comparison to Tanya Hardin about the White Lives Matter. You know, my dad is an educated ex-Black Panther, and he put a text to me today. He said, "White Lives Matter, ha, 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 ha." And I said, I thought the shirt was a funny shirt. I thought the idea of me wearing it was funny. And I said, "Dad, why do you think it was funny?" He said, just a Black man stating the obvious. Yeah. And, you know, my dad doesn't listen to rap music, and he's like super educated. We opened up a water distribution center in the Dominican Republic together. He's like the original Steve Jobs, but he was getting blocked every which way with all of his ideas, and he didn't have an endless bank account, and he didn't have Instagram. So all these ideas, he had to like take them back and compress them. Like, my dad is the most brilliant person that I know, and we actually have a strained relationship because I was taken from him, because my mom was an actress, so she was a liberal. And my dad would see certain things and say, you know, we should do it this way, we should do it that way. And the people got around my mom and pulled her away, much like, you know, Kim is a Christian, but she has people who want her to go to Interview magazine and put her ass out while she's a 40-something-year-old multi-billionaire with 4 Black children. And this is how fashion wants to, how they want to present her. So I know you give these questions, and I give you like these 3-part answers. Is this a cool format for you?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, cool.
And I am following it.
All right.
So you said that your father said when he saw the shirt "White Lives Matter," it's great to see a Black man stating the obvious. So, by which I think you meant that's obviously true.
Yeah, that's my favorite response, because I kept on thinking, like, you know, people, they're looking for an explanation, and people say, well, as an artist, you don't have to give an explanation, but as a leader, you do.
Yes, I think that's right.
So the answer to why I wrote "White Lives Matter" on a shirt is because they do. It's the obvious thing.
Yeah. Why do you think that's so? And I assume the implication is, of course, all lives matter because they're lives, because God created them.
Yeah.
Why do you think that that would be considered controversial?
Because the same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be Black and the vernacular that we're supposed to have. My dad grew up as a military brat, and his family moved around, but they were based mostly in Delaware. And at the time, if they weren't the only black family, they were one of the few. And he would be discriminated against because he was black. So by the time he got into college, he would be discriminated against. He went to a black college, he would be discriminated against because they said he talked too white.
Yes.
And then he played the kick drum in the band. So when he would go to the club and the music was playing, where would he clap his hands? Where the kick drum is.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of where everyone else was clapping their hands. And this is the most elegant and tasteful person that I know. And when my mom, when the schools suggested, like the herding systems, because what they do is take the black community and they separate us, and they separate the families, and the educated, they push this, need for higher education, and us as blacks, we discriminate against each other and say, well, I got my PhD and you don't have your PhD, so I'm better than you. And so my mom, she had a PhD, and she was influenced to move to the south side of Chicago and take this job at Chicago State University. And she told my dad, if you come for us, you'll never see him again.
Lives Matter is really a rallying cry to end state-sanctioned violence against Black people.
Kanye took to Instagram to respond to the backlash, saying, quote, everyone knows that Black Lives Matter was a scam. Now it's over. You're welcome.
The statement that he put out basically forecasted the end of Black Lives Matter. I will say that we aren't going anywhere, regardless of how many T-shirts he puts on or prints or distributes, regardless of how many statements he puts out.
Kanye West and Candace Owens both have very elegant responses to all the backlash they receive for a seemingly benign gesture, in my opinion. Candace Owens is no doubt one of the most hated black people on the face of the earth. This poor thing has been called all types of racial epithets, from a bed wench to a Oreo, a coconut, and even a junior mint. All of these things are very tasty foods if you ask me, but they have been used to insinuate that she is black on the outside and white on the inside. But why so much hate? Why all the hate? The only thing that I can come up with is she has very conservative values. She is not a ghetto ratchet hood bitch, and she may keep it too real by telling uncomfortable truths at times. Now Kanye, on the other hand, well, it's clear to see that this man's elevator stops a few floors short of the penthouse, and at times he acts like a petulant child, but I don't know Kanye personally, and neither do most of you. The man may very well be a genius that is struggling to communicate to people that are not on his level. The one thing that is undeniable is they both brought up very good points about Black Lives Matter organization. And my question is, why has there not been this much backlash and outcry over the corruption of Black Lives Matter? In my opinion, Black Lives Matter was a socially engineered movement, just like feminism, to further divide us as people. Not just black people, but people as a whole. Just like the statement, White Lives Matter, the statement that has everybody's panties in a bunch, the statement Black Lives Matter had people of different races feeling a certain type of way, and this further divided us even more, which was one of the purposes of the socially engineered, Soros-funded movement in the first place. Either you're with Black Lives Matter or you're a racist. Black Lives Matter as an organization has raised over $90 million off the backs of dead black men and have done very little to nothing to help black men. Patrisse Cullors, on the other hand, one of the founders of BLM, has somehow been able to purchase 4 very high-end homes, including a $6 million home in a very white, very ritzy Los Angeles neighborhood. Her brother and baby daddy have also found hundreds of thousands of dollars in their bank accounts. Yet, there has been no outcry, no outrage. There has also been no outrage in the fact that the Black Lives Matter mission statement, which can be found at blacklivesmatter.com/whatwebelieve, pretty much denounces black men and black fathers with statements like this.
We build a space that affirms black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men, those evil men, are centered. We dismantle patriarchal practices. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family. But they are very much for trans people, queer people, old people, and of course, women. Straight men and fathers, not so much. Bruh. Yet we continue to praise this bogus organization. I made the statement, white lives matter, and why they are right. The truth is, white people are the only group of people that are allowed to be openly criticized for being shit human beings, when in reality, we're all shit human beings. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in no way am I the defender of all things white. Fuck that. But what I'm trying to say is, people are not very good people. You want to stop Asian hate? Well, let's start by pointing the finger at a very Asian place like China, where there is no place on the face of the earth where Asian hate is greater. Little kids are forced to work jobs like they are grown-ass human beings. The women, forced to be sex slaves and trafficked. And the men are nothing more than utilities to carry out the orders of a communist regime. They are worked and worked and worked until they are dead. Does not sound like a lot of Asian love to me. You want Black Lives to matter? Well, let's start with the black community. Let's start by pointing the finger at the black community, where 90% of the black people murdered in this country were at the hands or by the hands of another black person. Now, many people will say, well, yes, whites kill more whites and Mexicans kill more Mexicans and Asians kill more Asians, but not at the rate that blacks kill blacks. For instance, in 2020, there were over 10,000 blacks murdered in America. Compare that to 7,000 whites murdered in America. For a population of less than 13%, how in the world did they murder more? Or how in the world were more blacks murdered than whites murdered? And of course, not all the whites were murdered by white people. So it was like something like 7,000 whites murdered in 2020 compared to 10,000 blacks. So don't give me that shit because it is not valid. We also heard Candace and Kanye both talk about more babies being murdered in New York than babies being born. How can you ask other people the question, does Black Lives matter when Black lives do not matter to you as a black person? You want compassion for illegal immigrants. Well, let's start in Mexico, in Central America, in South America, where it's a fucking war zone, a cesspool of drugs, violence, and corruption. You have to point the finger at yourself first. You have to find compassion for yourself first. What I'm trying to say, people, is none of us are holier than thou, and no one's tribe is above reproach. The paint job of a car should never matter more than what's under the hood. Life matters, and that should never be a controversial statement. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for today. For more videos like this, you know what to do. Till next time, if there's a next time, peace.